All praise is due to Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. We praise Him in times of ease and in times of difficulty. We thank Him when the body feels strong and when it feels weak, because our gratitude is not dependent on our condition, but on His perfection. Blessings and peace be upon our beloved Prophet, his family, his companions, and all those who walk his path with sincerity until the end of time. My brothers and sisters, every single one of us has faced pain in one form or another. Some of us carry visible illness in the body, others carry invisible wounds in the heart, and some are exhausted in the mind and soul. Illness is not always a punishment. Sometimes it is a purification, sometimes it is a reminder. Sometimes it is a means of drawing closer to Allah in a way comfort never could. When Allah loves a servant, He tests them, not to break them, but to raise them. There is something powerful about turning to Allah when you have nowhere else to turn. When doctors have done what they can, when people can only offer sympathy, when the nights feel long and the pain feels heavy, that is when the believer lifts their hands and says, Ya Allah, You are Ash-Shafi, the healer. No cure comes except from You. That moment of sincerity, that tear that falls quietly, that whisper that only Allah hears, carries weight far greater than we can imagine. My dear brothers and sisters, sickness does not stand firm in front of the remembrance of Allah. Fear does not survive where trust in Allah is alive. Hopelessness cannot breathe where hope in Allah is strong. Allah tells us that He is closer to us than our jugular vein. If He is that close, then why should despair find a home in our hearts? Why should we allow illness to steal our faith, when faith is the very thing that gives us strength to endure illness? The believer understands that healing comes in many forms. Sometimes Allah removes the illness completely. Sometimes He reduces its impact. Sometimes He gives patience so strong that the pain no longer controls the heart. Sometimes He replaces suffering with immense reward in the hereafter. Every single outcome is goodness for the one who believes. This is why the believer never loses. Even when the body is weak, the soul can be strong. Look at how Allah mentions healing in the Quran. He reminds us that He is the one who gives life and causes death. He is the one who created the body and knows every cell within it. When Allah places sickness in a body, He also places its cure somewhere in His creation. Our duty is to seek treatment, to take permissible means, and at the same time to attach our hearts to Allah, not to the means themselves. My brothers and sisters, there is a difference between saying words and believing them. When you say, Allah is sufficient for me, do you truly rely on Him, or is it only on the tongue? When you say, Allah will heal me, do you trust His wisdom even if healing comes in a way you did not expect? True reliance is not the absence of effort. True reliance is effort combined with complete trust in Allah's plan. Never underestimate the power of dua. A dua made from a broken heart is never rejected. It may be answered immediately, it may be delayed, or it may be stored for you as a mountain of reward in the hereafter. But it is never ignored. Allah loves to hear the voice of His servant calling upon Him. Even when you feel weak, keep asking. Even when you feel tired, keep asking. Even when tears are the only words you have left, keep asking. True healing begins with turning to Allah in sincere reliance on Him. Every human being experiences challenges, pain, and sickness at some point in their life, and it is in these moments that the heart is tested. Illness, whether physical, mental, or emotional, often reminds us of our fragility and the limitations of the human body. Many people rush to find solutions in the world, seeking treatments, medications, and therapies, sometimes forgetting that the ultimate source of healing is Allah, the Creator of all things. True healing, therefore, is not only about restoring the body, but also about nurturing the heart and strengthening one's connection with Allah. When a person turns to Allah with sincerity, acknowledging His power and mercy. They open a channel for spiritual, emotional, and physical restoration that cannot be replicated by worldly means alone. Turning to Allah is an act of humility. It is a recognition that no matter how much knowledge, wealth, or influence one has, there are limits to human capability. Sincere reliance, known as Tawakkul, is not passive. It is an active expression of faith. It involves taking all permissible means to seek treatment while fully trusting that the outcome rests in Allah's hands. This combination of effort and trust creates a balance in the believer's life where they neither fall into despair nor rely solely on their own strength. Many people misunderstand reliance on Allah as simply waiting for a miracle to happen without doing anything. True reliance, however, is proactive. It involves seeking medical care, maintaining a healthy lifestyle, praying consistently, and keeping the heart connected to the remembrance of Allah. When these actions are combined with sincere trust, healing becomes holistic, addressing the body, mind, and soul simultaneously. Prayer or dua plays a crucial role in this process. A heartfelt dua can uplift the spirit, reduce stress, and bring comfort to a suffering heart. Allah tells us in the Quran that He responds to the call of the distressed when they call upon Him. Therefore, when someone turns to Allah in sickness, acknowledging His greatness and seeking His help, they are tapping into a source of power that is beyond human comprehension. Sincere reliance also requires patience and persistence. Healing is not always immediate, and sometimes the process is slow and challenging. Yet the believer understands that every trial carries wisdom and mercy, and that enduring difficulty with faith strengthens the soul. This perspective allows a person to remain hopeful, even in the midst of suffering, because they know that Allah's plan is perfect and that every hardship is temporary. Moreover, turning to Allah in times of sickness transforms the experience itself. Pain, discomfort, and limitations become opportunities to draw closer to the Creator. A person begins to recognize the blessings that were previously taken for granted, the ability to breathe, to see, to move, and even to pray despite weakness. Each moment becomes a chance to express gratitude, to seek forgiveness, and to strengthen one's relationship with Allah. True healing also involves the purification of the heart. When one relies sincerely on Allah, they begin to let go of resentment, anger, and negative thoughts that may have accumulated over time. This spiritual cleansing complements physical recovery, as stress and negativity often exacerbate illness. The heart becomes lighter, the mind clearer, and the body more receptive to healing. Stories of the prophets and the righteous demonstrate the power of turning to Allah in sickness. They showed unwavering faith, sought Allah's help, and were rewarded with relief, patience, and spiritual elevation. Their examples teach us that no sickness is too great for Allah's mercy, and no trial is without purpose. Another essential aspect of reliance is understanding that healing may not always be immediate or complete in the way one expects. Sometimes Allah chooses to remove sickness. Sometimes He allows it to continue as a test. And sometimes He replaces it with spiritual rewards that are far greater than physical relief. This understanding shifts the focus from the mere absence of illness to the presence of faith, trust, and closeness to Allah. Believers who truly rely on Allah experience a sense of peace that transcends physical discomfort. Even when the body is weak, the heart feels strong, secure, and connected to the One who controls all affairs. This inner strength is a form of healing in itself, as it brings calm, reduces anxiety, and fosters resilience. Family, friends, and community support are also part of the process as Allah often heals through the care, love, and encouragement of others. Yet, the foundation remains the direct connection with Allah, the source of all mercy and healing. In addition, reliance on Allah encourages a balanced lifestyle that supports health. The believer is mindful of their body as a trust from Allah, taking care of it through proper nutrition, exercise, and avoiding harmful habits. These actions are not separate from faith. They are manifestations of it, demonstrating that reliance on Allah does not mean neglecting responsibility, but rather integrating faith into every aspect of life. The combination of prayer, patience, gratitude, proactive care, and trust creates an environment where healing can flourish. The mind becomes calm, the heart becomes hopeful, and the body becomes more receptive to recovery. Even in chronic or severe conditions, this holistic approach brings peace, resilience, and spiritual strength that no illness can destroy. Ultimately, true healing is a journey that encompasses the entire being. It begins with turning to Allah sincerely, relying on Him completely, and maintaining unwavering faith even when the outcome is uncertain. Each step of the journey teaches lessons in patience, humility, gratitude, and trust, creating a life that is rich in faith, resilience, and spiritual health. This approach reminds us that sickness is never absolute, that no ailment can overpower a heart connected to Allah, and that genuine reliance on Him transforms suffering into a source of growth, hope, and divine mercy. Patience, prayer, and gratitude are powerful tools against sickness. In the life of a believer, trials and difficulties are inevitable, and illness is among the most common tests that Allah places in our path. When the body is weak or the spirit is burdened by pain, it is easy to feel overwhelmed, hopeless, or even abandoned. Yet, Islam teaches us that these moments are opportunities to cultivate virtues that strengthen both the heart and the soul. Patience, or Sabr, is the first of these powerful tools. It is not merely enduring hardship silently, but maintaining a conscious awareness of Allah's presence while facing trials. Patience transforms suffering into a form of worship and every moment of steadfastness becomes a means of drawing closer to Allah. The believer who exercises patience does not complain unnecessarily, does not allow bitterness to take root, and does not despair at the temporary difficulties of this world. Instead, they recognize that every trial has a purpose, that sickness is a test, and that Allah measures the believer's faith through their ability to endure with dignity and trust. Prayer is the second essential tool. When one is sick, prayer becomes both a source of solace and a direct connection with the Most Merciful. Dua, the personal supplication to Allah, allows the believer to pour out their fears, pains, and needs without reservation. It is a private conversation with the Creator, where no words are judged and no plea goes unheard. Prayer elevates the soul, eases the heart, and fosters a sense of hope that cannot be found through worldly means alone. Regular salah, the 5 daily prayers, anchors the believer in remembrance of Allah and provides moments of spiritual rejuvenation. When sickness threatens to dominate one's life, prayer reminds the heart that ultimate control rests with Allah, not the condition of the body or the limitations of human effort. Gratitude, or shukr, is the third indispensable tool. At first, it may seem counterintuitive to express gratitude when one is in pain, but the believer understands that gratitude is not merely for moments of ease and comfort. True gratitude acknowledges Allah's wisdom in every circumstance. It recognizes that every blessing, no matter how small, is a gift, and that even trials carry hidden benefits. Expressing gratitude while sick shifts the focus from what is lacking to what is present. It opens the heart to positivity, reduces despair, and fosters resilience. The combination of patience, prayer, and gratitude creates a spiritual environment where sickness loses its dominance. The believer, Lee, to endure without resentment, to hope without wavering, and to find contentment in the mercy of Allah. These virtues do not only provide emotional strength, they also contribute to physical and mental well-being. Studies in modern science have shown that stress, anxiety, and negative emotions can exacerbate illness, while patience, mindfulness, and a positive outlook support healing. In this sense, Islam's guidance is timeless, addressing both the soul and the body. Patience teaches the believer to accept the situation as part of Allah's divine plan. It is not a passive acceptance, but an active state of inner strength. The believer resists the temptation to complain excessively, to lose hope, or to blame others. Instead, they reflect, learn, and seek ways to improve their condition while maintaining trust in Allah. This mindset reduces suffering, fosters resilience, and strengthens faith. Prayer, on the other hand, is the bridge between human limitation and divine power. When the believer's strength fails, when medicine cannot fully restore health, prayer becomes the channel through which help flows. It is the means of invoking Allah's mercy and aligning one's heart with His will. Through prayer, the believer can find peace even in pain, comfort even in uncertainty, and courage even in weakness. Gratitude completes this triad by reshaping perspective. The heart that is grateful focuses on what it has rather than what it has lost. It sees the beauty in small blessings, the lessons in adversity, and the opportunities for spiritual growth within suffering. Gratitude prevents despair, strengthens the immune system metaphorically and spiritually, and nurtures contentment. When patience, prayer, and gratitude work together, they transform the experience of sickness. The believer is not merely surviving, they are thriving spiritually. They find meaning in adversity, develop resilience, and cultivate a relationship with Allah that cannot be shaken by physical weakness. This approach also impacts those around them. Family, friends, and community members who witness steadfast patience, heartfelt prayer, and sincere gratitude are inspired to strengthen their own faith and resilience. Furthermore, these virtues create a sense of hope and courage that spreads beyond the individual. Islam teaches that every difficulty carries reward, and that sickness can elevate a believer's status in the eyes of Allah. Each patient moment, each heartfelt prayer, and each expression of gratitude is recorded and multiplied in reward. This understanding allows the believer to face illness with dignity, knowing that their suffering has purpose and that their response has eternal value. The believer also learns to trust in Allah's timing. Healing may not be immediate, and relief may not arrive exactly as expected. Yet patience sustains hope, prayer reinforces reliance, and gratitude maintains perspective. Together, they form a shield against despair, a source of strength in weakness, and a path to spiritual growth. In addition, these virtues influence how one approaches treatment and care. The believer who is patient, prayerful, and grateful is more likely to follow medical advice, adopt healthy habits, and maintain a positive attitude, all of which support the process of recovery. They understand that Allah often works through means, and that their efforts combined with reliance on Him create the conditions for healing. Ultimately, patience, prayer, and gratitude are inseparable elements of a believer's response to sickness. They are not mere acts of ritual. They are transformative practices that fortify the heart, calm the mind, and strengthen the spirit. They turn trials into opportunities, suffering into worship, and weakness into a source of resilience. The believer who embraces these tools experiences a profound sense of peace, a deep connection with Allah, and a strength that no illness can diminish. demonstrating that true health encompasses both body and soul, and that faith in Allah empowers one to endure, overcome, and rise above every challenge. Sickness can be a means of purification, spiritual growth, and drawing closer to Allah. Every trial that a believer faces, including illness, carries within it opportunities for development and elevation in both this life and the hereafter. While the pain of sickness may seem unbearable at times, it is often a vehicle through which Allah shapes the heart, cleanses the soul, and reminds the believer of the reality of dependence on Him. In life, people often become attached to comfort, strength, and ease, forgetting that all power ultimately belongs to Allah. Illness interrupts the routines of life, humbles the spirit, and forces reflection. When a person is confined by sickness, whether it is chronic or temporary, they are reminded of their limitations and their need for divine mercy. This humbling process is a form of purification, as it strips away arrogance, pride, and the illusion of control, replacing it with sincerity, humility, and reliance on Allah. The spiritual growth that comes through sickness is immense. A believer who turns to Allah during illness develops patience, gratitude, and a deeper awareness of the transient nature of worldly life. They learn to focus on the eternal rather than the temporary, to invest energy in worship and remembrance, and to prioritize spiritual pursuits over fleeting desires. Every moment of suffering becomes a lesson in trust, a moment to seek forgiveness, and an opportunity to strengthen the connection with the Creator. Sickness also provides the believer with the chance to reflect on their life and their relationship with Allah. In times of health, people often become complacent, taking their abilities for granted and delaying acts of worship. Illness, however, brings awareness of mortality and dependency, prompting a return to Allah with humility and sincerity. This return is itself a means of spiritual elevation, as it aligns the heart with truth, increases reliance on divine mercy, and fosters a sense of purpose even in hardship. The purification achieved through sickness is not only moral and spiritual, but also emotional. Pain often reveals hidden frustrations, anxieties, or attachments that distract the heart from Allah. By confronting these emotions, the believer can release negativity, seek forgiveness, and develop inner peace. This cleansing allows the soul to emerge stronger, calmer, and more focused on worship and devotion. Additionally, sickness strengthens empathy and compassion. When a person experiences pain firsthand, they develop a deeper understanding of the struggles of others. This perspective fosters kindness, patience, and support for those who are also suffering, creating bonds of compassion and solidarity within the community. Through illness, the believer is reminded that true dependence is on Allah alone. Medications, doctors, and treatments are means provided by Him, but they are not the ultimate source of healing. Recognizing this distinction cultivates tawakkul, or trust in Allah, which is a key component of spiritual growth. The heart learns to surrender fully, acknowledging that Allah's wisdom surpasses human understanding, and that every outcome, whether complete recovery, partial relief, or prolonged trial, is part of a divine plan filled with mercy and purpose. Sickness also offers an opportunity for the believer to increase in worship and good deeds. When physical strength is limited, acts of devotion such as Dhikr, recitation of the Quran, and heartfelt supplication can be performed from the heart, demonstrating that worship is not confined to physical ability, but is rooted in intention and sincerity. The effort to maintain spiritual practice despite weakness strengthens faith and fosters resilience. Moreover, illness encourages reflection on the hereafter. The believer is reminded that worldly life is temporary, and that suffering can be a means of expiation for sins and elevation in the ranks of paradise. Understanding this perspective transforms sickness from a source of despair into a source of hope. Pain becomes a purification of past mistakes, and endurance becomes a source of reward that is both spiritual and eternal. This awareness encourages patience and gratitude even in the midst of trials, fostering a heart that remains steadfast and connected to Allah. The lessons of illness extend beyond the individual to their family, friends, and community. A believer's response to sickness, through patience, prayer, gratitude, and trust, serves as an example and inspiration for others. It demonstrates the power of faith in overcoming hardship and shows that challenges can be transformed into opportunities for spiritual growth. Sickness also teaches reliance on dua, the supplication to Allah. When worldly means fall short, the believer turns to Allah with sincerity and humility, seeking help, comfort, and healing. This practice strengthens the heart, cultivates hope, and reinforces the understanding that no situation is beyond Allah's control. Through this reliance, the believer experiences closeness to Allah that may not have been achieved in times of ease, creating a bond that nurtures both spiritual and emotional well-being. In addition, sickness encourages the believer to reflect on gratitude for health and ease when it returns. Each recovery, small or large, becomes an opportunity to praise Allah and recognize His merk. Even during prolonged illness, the believer can cultivate appreciation for life's simple blessings, breathing, movement, and the ability to pray, understanding that true wealth lies in spiritual awareness rather than worldly comfort. Ultimately, sickness serves as a powerful tool for purification, spiritual growth, and drawing closer to Allah. It humbles the heart, strengthens patience, cultivates gratitude, and fosters reliance on the Creator. It transforms pain into worship, weakness into resilience, and trials into opportunities for eternal reward. The believer learns to see illness not merely as a burden, but as a means of refinement, a path toward closeness to Allah, and a source of lessons that elevate the soul, instill empathy, and create a life grounded in faith and trust in Allah, make the heart stronger than any physical ailment. In life, believers face challenges that test their patience, endurance, and resilience, and sickness is one of the most profound of these trials. Physical weakness, discomfort, and pain can weigh heavily on a person, yet the strength of the heart, rooted in faith, can withstand trials that the body alone cannot. Faith is not merely a set of beliefs. It is a living, breathing connection with Allah that empowers the believer to endure difficulties with hope and courage. Trust in Allah, or Tawakkul, complements faith by teaching the believer to rely on the Creator fully while taking the necessary steps in the worldly realm. Together, faith and trust transform the experience of sickness from one of despair into an opportunity for spiritual strength and inner resilience. A heart anchored in faith does not succumb to fear when illness strikes. It recognizes that health is a blessing from Allah, that sickness is a test, and that the ultimate outcome rests with the most merciful. This understanding provides peace amidst uncertainty, for the believer knows that Allah's wisdom governs all matters, and that nothing occurs without a divine purpose. When faith is strong, even severe illness cannot dominate the heart or extinguish hope. Trust in Allah allows the believer to maintain equilibrium. It encourages taking all necessary steps for recovery while surrendering the results to Allah's will. This balance prevents despair and anxiety from taking root, replacing them with patience, serenity, and acceptance. A heart fortified by faith understands that physical limitations are temporary, but spiritual strength endures. The Prophet, peace be upon him, taught that reliance on Allah is the hallmark of a believer. It is a state of certainty in the heart, a deep awareness that the Creator is the ultimate source of help, guidance, and healing. When sickness challenges the body, faith becomes the shield that protects the spirit, allowing the believer to face adversity without losing composure, hope, or trust. Strong faith also reshapes the perception of pain. The believer does not see illness merely as suffering, but as an opportunity for purification, elevation, and reward. Each moment of endurance, every patient breath, and every prayer offered from the heart becomes a source of spiritual benefit. Trust in Allah allows the believer to embrace this perspective fully, finding meaning even in hardship and transforming trials into acts of devotion. Moreover, a heart rooted in faith draws strength from remembrance of Allah. Dhikr, recitation of the Quran, and heartfelt supplication fortify the believer against despair. These practices remind the heart of Allah's closeness, mercy, and power, providing comfort that no medication or treatment alone can offer. Sickness then becomes a context in which faith is exercised, strengthened, and displayed, revealing the resilience of the human spirit when it is connected to the divine. Faith and trust also encourage acceptance of Allah's decree. The believer understands that not every illness will be removed immediately, that sometimes patience is required, and that even prolonged suffering carries wisdom and potential reward. This acceptance does not lead to passivity. Rather, it fosters proactive engagement with treatment, healthy practices, and self-care, all while maintaining reliance on Allah. The heart becomes a source of courage, steadiness, and hope, showing that true strength is spiritual rather than purely physical. Family, community, and loved ones also benefit from a believer whose heart is strong. Witnessing steadfast faith in the face of illness inspires others, teaches resilience, and encourages reliance on Allah in their own lives. The impact of a strong heart extends beyond the individual, creating a ripple effect of spiritual strength and hope. In addition, faith cultivates a sense of perspective. The believer understands that worldly suffering is temporary and that the hereafter is eternal. This awareness diminishes fear, reduces anxiety, and provides motivation to endure patiently. Trust in Allah transforms the experience of sickness from one of helplessness into one of empowerment, for the heart recognizes that Allah's plan is perfect and that His wisdom encompasses all matters. A strong heart also enhances the effectiveness of prayer. When faith is present, supplication becomes more than words. It becomes a deep conversation with the Creator, filled with sincerity, hope, and reliance. This connection brings comfort, strengthens resolve, and fosters an inner peace that transcends the discomfort of illness. The believer learns to place their heart in the hands of Allah, knowing that whatever outcome occurs is ultimately good, even if it is not immediately understood. Faith and trust in Allah also teach resilience in the face of recurring or chronic illness. The believer who experiences repeated trials understands that strength does not lie in the absence of hardship, but in the ability to endure while maintaining hope, devotion, and connection to the divine. Each recurrence becomes an opportunity to reaffirm reliance on Allah, renew spiritual practice, and strengthen the heart against despair. Furthermore, a believer's heart strengthened by faith and trust is able to balance reliance on Allah with responsible action. Seeking treatment, following medical advice, and caring for the body are all acts that complement reliance on the Creator. Faith ensures that the believer does not fall into despair when recovery is slow, while trust ensures that the believer does not become overconfident in human means alone. Together, they create a holistic approach to sickness, combining spiritual strength with practical action. Ultimately, faith and trust in Allah build a heart that remains unshaken by illness. The body may weaken, the pain may intensify, but the spirit remains strong, resilient, and connected to its source. The believer experiences a depth of peace, hope, and courage that no sickness can diminish, demonstrating that true strength is measured not by physical capability alone, but by the heart's unwavering reliance on Allah, and that through faith, the believer is empowered to face any trial with dignity, patience, and unwavering trust in the one who controls all outcomes. Dua and remembrance of Allah have the power to overcome despair and illness. In the life of a believer, challenges are inevitable, and sickness is one of the most profound trials a person can face. The body may weaken, pain may increase, and uncertainty may cloud the heart. Yet the power of turning to Allah in supplication and remembrance offers strength that transcends physical limitations. Dua, the intimate communication with the Creator, is a means of drawing close to Him, seeking His mercy, guidance, and healing. It is an expression of humility, dependence, and trust, acknowledging that all affairs rest in the hands of the Most Merciful. The Prophet, peace be upon him, taught that there is nothing more powerful than a sincere dua, and that no plea made with a devoted heart is ever disregarded. The believer who faces illness understands that human efforts have limits. Medications, treatments, and therapies are means provided by Allah, but ultimate healing comes from Him alone. This awareness cultivates reliance on Allah, transforming the heart from despair to hope, from fear to confidence, and from weakness to spiritual strength. Remembrance of Allah, or Dhikr, reinforces this connection. When a believer recites His names, reflects on His attributes, and keeps their heart engaged in His presence, the soul experiences tranquility. Anxiety diminishes, patience increases, and the spirit finds resilience even amidst physical pain. Scientific studies support what the faithful have always known, that mindfulness, meditation, and focused reflection can positively impact the body and mind, reducing stress and promoting healing. In Islam, Dhikr serves not only as a spiritual practice, but as a holistic tool for maintaining peace, focus, and inner strength. The act of turning to Allah in sickness also cultivates humility. A person recognizes their dependence on a power far greater than their own, realizing that no wealth, knowledge, or effort alone can guarantee recovery. This humility softens the heart, purifies intentions, and fosters a deeper sense of gratitude for every moment of health, ease, and comfort. The believer begins to value the simple blessings that were once taken for granted, understanding that life itself is a gift, and that even in weakness there is the opportunity to draw nearer to Allah. Dua strengthens hope. In times of illness, when despair whispers and fear attempts to dominate, supplication becomes a lifeline. It allows the believer to voice their concerns, ask for relief, and place trust in Allah's perfect wisdom. Each dua is a bridge between the human heart and divine mercy, offering solace and reassurance that the one who controls all matters is listening, attentive, and capable of providing healing in ways beyond human imagination. The effectiveness of dua is not limited to physical recovery alone. It also nurtures the soul, purifies the heart, and cultivates resilience. The act of asking Allah, even without immediate results, fosters patience, strengthens faith, and builds an unwavering connection with the Creator. The believer comes to realize that true success is not only in the absence of illness, but in the strength of the heart, the clarity of faith, and the depth of trust in Allah's plan. Remembrance of Allah reinforces this strength continuously. By reciting phrases of praise, reflecting on His attributes, and engaging in silent meditation, the believer maintains a constant connection to the source of all healing. This ongoing dhikr elevates the spirit, reduces anxiety, and provides perspective. The heart learns to focus on divine wisdom rather than temporary discomfort, allowing faith to overshadow fear and hope to rise above despair. Additionally, dua and remembrance cultivate patience, which is essential in facing sickness. Healing may take time, the outcome may differ from expectations, and trials may persist longer than anticipated. Yet, the believer who engages in consistent supplication and remembrance is equipped with patience, endurance, and serenity. They understand that every moment of suffering, when approached with prayer and reflection, carries reward and contributes to spiritual growth. Sickness often isolates a person from daily routines, social interactions, and physical comfort, but dua provides companionship in solitude. The believer can pour out their heart to Allah, expressing fears, gratitude, hopes, and needs. This intimate communication strengthens the soul, reduces feelings of loneliness, and instills a sense of purpose and connection. Moreover, sincere supplication nurtures trust in Allah's wisdom and timing. The believer recognizes that Allah's knowledge surpasses human understanding, and that healing may come in forms beyond imagination. It may be immediate, gradual, or even manifest in the form of spiritual reward rather than physical recovery. Accepting this reality with trust allows the heart to remain calm, steadfast, and connected, regardless of the circumstances. The transformative power of dua and remembrance extends beyond the individual. Family, friends, and community members who witness steadfast reliance on Allah find inspiration, hope, and motivation to strengthen their own faith. The ripple effect of prayer, patience, and remembrance encourages a culture of resilience, compassion, and spiritual awareness within society. Engaging in dhikr and supplication also reminds the believer of the impermanence of worldly life. Physical ailments are temporary, trials are finite, and the eternal connection with Allah transcends the fluctuations of the body. This awareness provides perspective, helping the believer prioritize spiritual well-being and maintain a heart that is undisturbed by temporary suffering. Dua and remembrance are also forms of empowerment. They remind the believer that while human control is limited, divine power is limitless. Even in moments of extreme weakness, the heart can find strength, courage, and hope through these practices. Each prayer, each whispered plea, and each heartfelt act of remembrance reinforces connection with Allah and strengthens the belief that no hardship, no illness, and no despair is beyond His mercy. Ultimately, consistent supplication and remembrance cultivate a heart that is resilient, calm, and unwavering. They transform the experience of sickness from one of fear and helplessness into one of growth, patience, and spiritual elevation. The believer learns to see illness not only as a challenge, but as a vehicle for closeness to Allah, a means of purification, and a source of immense reward, demonstrating that the power of dua and remembrance transcends the limitations of the body, nurtures the soul, and equips the heart to overcome every trial with unwavering faith and trust.